Let us hear from Analyst Levy Ndou about the resignation of a number of councillors from the city of Cape Town. Levy, good evening and thank you so much for joining us on the Globe. Now, 5 councillors resigned from the city of Cape Town today, which is Thursday, ahead of a council vote on whether to press criminal charges against Mayor Patricia de Lille. Can it get any worse?
Good evening to you, Lulu. Good evening to the viewers of SABC. Indeed, it did not come as a shock. If you look at the build-up to these events, you'll recall that the DA had made an attempt to press charges against Patricia de Lille, which actually culminated into a vote of no confidence in the council, which fortunately or unfortunately was actually defeated. But few months ago, indeed, there was a press conference where there was a confirmation that the charges against Patricia de Lille are going to be dropped, and then she's actually going to resign. Surprising enough, you now get the councillors of the DA who still want to continue and press the charges against Patricia de Lille. Remember, the first motion was not supported by the members of the DA in its entirety in the council. And that is a clear indication that there are cracks within the DA councillors in the city of Cape Town. But I think also at the same time, de Lille might be feeling that she might have been betrayed. Because if indeed the deal was that the charges are not going to continue, and suddenly when she's about to resign, there is an announcement that charges are going to be pressed again, it actually has an element of a double standard on the part of the Democratic Alliance. And I think that is why some of those who have actually resigned feel that Patricia de Lille has not been treated fairly and she has actually been betrayed by her own party.
Now, speaking of the 5 councillors and them complaining about racism in the Democratic Alliance, are they correct in charging that the DA has some form of racism within its ranks?
Well, I think it depends on where one stands. If you look at the leaders of the DA speak and you look at what the DA stands for, the emphasis that the Democratic Alliance stands for all South Africans, and the Democratic Party is the new future for all South Africans. But if you look at what has actually happened today, these people are the leaders of the Democratic Alliance in the city of Cape Town. And if you hear this from the leaders of the Democratic Alliance who are saying, we're getting out of the Democratic Alliance because of racism, indeed, it raises a number of issues. One will be that they might be correct in saying that there are elements of racism because this is coming from the leaders of the Democratic Alliance. 2, they might be raising issues of racism because they would love to get sympathy from the other members of society, in particular the black constituency. Number 3, they might also be coming up with a strategy to say, because we are out of the Democratic Alliance, having resigned from the Democratic Alliance and from the council, they would not want to see the Democratic Alliance succeeding as a non-racial party. And you'll recall that there is one thing that always hounds the Democratic Alliance, and that is racism. And indeed, if it is coming from those that went into the council through the Democratic Party ticket, it has an element of creating a dent on the Democratic Party.
Now, who will replace these empty seats for now? Are they going to be replaced immediately, or do you think the DA will take time in ensuring that those seats are covered?
Well, democracy and representation is about numbers. And obviously, the Democratic Alliance might be planning already on who are the best people to replace them. Obviously, they need to do all this work in consultation with the IEC. But what becomes very critical will be to identify people who are actually going to move with the mission of the Democratic Alliance in the city of Cape Town, because they have to avoid putting in people that are actually going to get in and still not move with the decisions that are actually being taken now by this council. So for me, I expect the Democratic Alliance to move very, very carefully and identify the right people who are actually not going to resign when the motions of the Democratic Alliance are being proposed in the city of Cape Town.
Now, Levy, very quickly, is this not a dent in the DA's campaign for next year's election 2019, which is just around the corner?
This, for me, becomes a very, very big problem for the Democratic Alliance. Remember, when Patricia de Lille went to the Democratic Alliance, she went there with a huge number of supporters and members of the Independent Democrat. And when in February, the decision for Patricia de Lille to be removed from the council was taken, a lot of people in the city of Cape Town, the ordinary citizens, showed a lot of support and sympathy on Patricia de Lille. And this will require, for me, the DA in the city of Cape Town to work very hard to prove to the people of Cape Town that indeed the decisions that they've taken against Patricia de Lille were very much correct, and also at the same time try their best to ensure that the people that always support Patricia de Lille don't actually move with her out of the Democratic Alliance, and they must continue supporting her. And indeed, that will not be a very easy work to do.
Now, Levy, on the other hand, seemingly it wasn't a good day at the office for the DA. This after Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina survived a DA-sponsored motion of no confidence at the council chambers in Germiston. Now, Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina, he survived this sponsored motion of no confidence that was brought against him, and this is the second motion of no confidence brought against him. What is the main reason that warrants his detractors to wanting to see him out?
Well, you would know that there is a plan by the Democratic Alliance to take over Gauteng. And for me, the Democratic Alliance has to test the waters, especially in a metro that they are not in charge, in order to prepare someone to take over if the motion succeeds from the Democratic Alliance, so that they have a very strong presence in the entire province. But another aspect that we need to look at with the motions of no confidence in South Africa is that there seems to be a lot of focus by politicians in South Africa, especially with their coalition governments, to concentrate on motion of no confidence and concentrate on building the coalitions or relations amongst political partners. And for me, that is actually being done in the expense of ordinary citizens and service delivery. But I think coalitions and relations amongst different political parties have to be managed in a manner that we don't have constant disruptions of motions of no confidence, and actually focus on ensuring that the actual mandate and responsibility given to those that are supposed to govern are unnecessarily interrupted by this kind of motions.
Levy, we are going to continue this discussion on the day at the office of the DA, but I'd like us to go to a package where it just elaborates more on exactly what took place today. As I mentioned earlier, it wasn't a good day at the office for the Democratic Alliance. This after Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina survived a DA-sponsored motion of no confidence at the council chambers in Germiston. The EFF did not support the motion, while the IFP abstained. Hundreds of ANC members